So in this video, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the Pilot Vanishing Point. This is a retractable fountain pen that has been made for some time now, I think since like the 60s or so, but it's quite popular and it's almost certainly the most popular retractable fountain pen. And basically it has a button, just like a standard, pen, retractable pen, but it sticks out a fountain pen nib as opposed to just a standard writing tip that we'd find on just any sort of clicky pen. The Vanishing Point, like I said, is quite popular. There's a few different variations. This is I would say the standard model, which is a either 14K or in this case an 18K gold nib, metal body, a round body. It's also sold as a few different versions like the Decimo and the Namiki branded ones, and some of them will be faceted, some of them will have a different clip, but this is sort of the standard one, and I think it sells for maybe like $130, give or take. You could buy them less, imported, without all the official dealer type warranty and all that, or you could buy them for a little bit more. I'll just note that this one does have a gold nib. Pilot also sells something called the special metal or the special alloy, I think it's called, and that is a steel nib. You'll see those on Amazon and other places for like $80, and those will have been imported from Japan. So just to get some basics out of the way, it's a good sized pen with a very long button. Almost all retractable fountain pens have an extended button, and you can see it's like maybe twice the length, maybe 1.5 times the length of a standard retractable pen button. That's a good sized fountain pen. Put it next to, this is a larger rollerball. Here's like a Waterman. So pretty reasonable size, but not huge. Obviously it's meant for being used on the go for sort of note taking. Metal body, comes in a number of colors. It's a pretty tough body. You can see this one actually has picked up a few little dents over the years, but that has no effect on performance. Probably the most interesting feature of the pen, at least from a design standpoint, is the fact that the clip is essentially on the wrong end of the pen. Basically, if you were to have it right ways up and the clip would be on here, you could possibly put the pen into your pocket with the nib out and ruin your shirt or your pants or what have you. But here, even if it was retracted and you put it out, it would not touch anything. Also, if it were to leak, then chances are it wouldn't come out this way. It would just leak into the body. These don't really, I haven't seen them leak, but I guess it could happen. Just to close this out, all metal. The yellow is a common color, but it's also sold in a stealth, which is like black on black on black, which is very popular. So there's a white on black. There's a few different variations that are quite popular, but then also blue and a few other ones. The yellow is the most popular. All metal body. I think this is some sort of enamel coating, but I'm not really sure. Comes apart. You just unscrew it. This has a little button, a little spring in here, so that keeps everything tight and prevents wiggle, but really not too much else to see. There's definitely a fair bit of plastic hardware in there. On the other end, we see it will work with a Pilot converter or cartridge. Obviously, I have the cartridge in there. It will work with like a Con 40, so like one of the smaller but more affordable cartridges. Front of the pen does not have a whole lot to see. So it's nice and heavy, has some weight to it. You can see that this piece will only fit in one direction thanks to this little notch and this little piece right here. So you can't put it in sideways or backwards or anything like that. One of the interesting things about this front half is that you could probably tell from right now is that you can't see through it. So when you push the nib, there's a little door right there. That door presses down. When you push the button, that door presses down and the nib comes out. What happens with that door is basically it keeps air out of the nib area so that nib doesn't get dried out. This pen it's prone to hard starts, and the door is supposed to help prevent that, but it only works so well. Look at the nib. It's just a tiny little nib with a tiny little feed. There's only so much ink that it could hold. So the door helps, but there's only so much that can be done. This is the cartridge, obviously. You could put a converter in there. And then this piece plus the nib and feed is called like the nib unit. And you could buy replacements of these. I think they're about $50 to $70, depending on where you buy them. And they're pretty common to find online used because I think these pens are really heavily used. A lot of them have been, in circulation for many years, and things do happen. I haven't found this nib to be particularly sturdy, so I'm not shocked when people are selling replacements of it. There's that nib. You can see Pilot 18K, which is $750 as opposed to $585, which is $14K gold. Medium point, and then there's just some model information down there, and that might be a Pilot logo. It's a little hard to make out. And not much else to it. This is just sort of a solid piece of steel, and that's just kind of what moves up and down so that there's no pressure on the nib and no real pressure on the cartridge except for pushing it in. It's really just this stainless steel piece holding everything together. It's really not much to the pen. Just screws down, and now it works. It is a long press, but it's very easy to do with one hand. It's not like it's hard to do. And it's a nice feel, but it's not something you want to like click into hard and then, pop it back. The way with this pen, you might push it in, or you might push it and then push it and just really let it out. That's not something you want to do with a fountain pen with an 18 karat gold nib on the end, but it's hard to resist the urge, especially because this button is a little bit slippery, so it will happen. In my experience, it won't do anything to damage the pen. Back to the clip, it's basically on the wrong side. There's no two ways around that. So when you're writing, it can get in the way. That is basically the number one reason people complain about this pen, is that the clip, it killed me. If you have like a tripod style 3-finger type grip, it could be right where you want to hold. It's better if you hold off to the side a little bit and just kind of twist the pen, then it won't bother you so much. I know it is a popular mod to just get this clip and remove it. And basically you could piece apart the pen somehow. I haven't gotten really into it. And this is just a piece of stamped steel. So that means it's held in place by little pieces of steel that are pushed inside of the chrome piece and then folded over. So basically you just wiggle them out, and then I think people use something to plug up this hole. I don't know if it's epoxy or what, but then you have this pen just missing the clip. And I don't really clip all my pens into my pockets so much because I'm afraid of dropping them or afraid of ink getting all over the place. So in that case, you're not really losing anything because you're keeping it in a pen case anyway, or just putting it loose in your pocket. As far as the writing experience goes, I would definitely say I found this pen to be hit and miss. Sometimes it has really hard starts and it just takes a minute to get going. If you are using a Pilot cartridge with Pilot standard ink, I found that to be the best experience, better than the cartridge in fact, but that could just be me. This is the, again, the Vanishing point. Vanishing point. People usually refer to it as the VP, just because it's so popular and so many people in like the sort of fountain pen community are trying to pick these up. This one, I don't know if it's like this pen in particular or all of them, but it is a really heavy medium. And that might be that this pen has gotten a little bit pushed out. It's been in use for a couple of years now. But for me, it is a really heavy medium. It's a nice writer. I don't have any real problems with it, but it's too heavy for medium. And I do miss some strokes. I think just for me, this nib is just really not what I'm looking for. I appreciate the pen, I like the design, but I don't really enjoy using the nib so much. So it sort of kills the pen for me. And then it does that sort of thing where you'll write and it'll just miss a stroke or two. The vanishing point is also sometimes called, see, just missed that. Like that's just like that randomly happening. If it happens at the start, fine, but have it randomly happen kills me. It's sometimes called the capless. But, you know, Pilot does have a pen called the capless LS or something like that coming out. So you want to make sure you're keeping your eye on the right thing. Basically, my experience is if you're writing with this and you stay writing, it's fine and it keeps up with you. If you are start and stop, if you're note taking or in class or something, then is where it really has fallen off for me. It's hard to read too much into that because, again, so much could happen with a fickle little nib like this, and I haven't tested out like 30 or 40 Pilot vanishing points. I've tested out a few, and that's basically in my experience, but you know, take it for what it's worth. So this is the Pilot vanishing point. It's an interesting pen, cool design. I really appreciate that there's a lot of history, and I really like some of the variations. This is sold in a faceted version, branded as a Namiki, which is just so cool. Much cooler than the standard design for me. So I would say that out of all the vanishing points, this standard $150 18K model is my least favorite. If I was going to reinvest in one or invest in one again, I would either go as cheap as possible and get the stainless steel version, the special alloy. Whatever. I will either get the special alloy one, or I would go ahead and buy the Decimo, which has a little bit thinner body. And if I really want to blow it out, you look for one of those vintage faceted ones. And it's just a much, much cooler looking pen in my eyes. Again, this is round. Some of them actually have faceted. It's I don't know if it's octagonal or what, but it's a few sides to it. So that's the vanishing point. Cool pen, interesting concept. For me, it's a flawed execution. I don't generally recommend it, especially at the $150 level. If you could buy one from a buddy who bought it and doesn't like it, or you could find a good deal on one used, then you just have to make sure the nib is in good shape, which oftentimes it's not. Which a lot of times people take a flyer on this pen. They don't know if they're in the fountain pens. This seems like a great place to start, which it is, like, as a fountain pen goes, fairly practical, and then maybe they abuse it. I don't know what. But at 150, it's not really something I recommend. But if you can find a good deal, it's an interesting enough pen, and there's a really vibrant resale market for it if you don't like it. That's it. Pilot Vanishing Point. Thanks for watching.